So South Africa have 4 world titles. They won their 4th just over a week ago. So in this video, I'm thinking, how do we rank each of them? 1 to 4, what ranking do you get to? That's what I'm going to do in this video. Now, there's no wrong answers. It's just a bit of fun. Many of you will have a completely different view to the list that I come up with. So drop it in the comments section. Let me know where you would rank them. 1995, 2007, 2019 and 2023, a list of 4 going up to number 1. So let me know in the comment section. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That just gives us a little boost, massively helps me out. And if you enjoy it enough, then drop a like on the video. But let's get straight into it. As I say, this is, in a way, this is a bit of a futile exercise because South African fans will be watching this and they'll be saying, we don't need to rank them. They're all incredibly special triumphs in their own right. They're all significant to us in different ways and for different reasons. And I completely get that. I completely agree. But as I say, it is just a bit of a laugh and it makes you think about them in perhaps a slightly different way rather than just thinking they won the World Cup this year, they won it that year. Thinking of the differences between all 4, essentially. So, starting at number 4, I've gone with 2019. Now, on the one hand, 2019 was an incredibly impressive run to the World Cup. The 18-month turnaround from when Rassie Erasmus came in, the way in which he appointed Siya Kolisi as the captain, the transition the team went on from that point forward to him eventually hoisting the William Webb Ellis Trophy 18 months later in Japan was incredibly impressive. The way in which they did turn it around was significant. But for me, when I look at the other triumphs, it probably comes 4th on the list. Now remember, someone had to come 4th. It's not intended as any sort of disrespect to the 2019 winning team. It's actually more of a reflection of the teams in those other years and the World Cup triumphs in those other years and how impressive they were. The other thing that I might throw in with 2019, and I expect I'll probably get quite a bit of pushback from South African fans on this, is I still think it was a relatively straightforward run to the title. I know no World Cup win is straightforward, but what I mean by that is after losing the first game in the group to the All Blacks, the Boks were always going to come through that pool. They then had to play Japan at home. I know Japan were no mugs, but I still think South Africa, despite losing to them in 2015, more often than not, should be beating Japan. They then played Wales, which was a gutsy, gritty, tough Wales team, but not exceptional. And they then played brilliantly in the final. And I think if we compare it to maybe other titles, in particular 2023, which I'll get onto, they didn't have as tough a run to the final. I expect a bit of pushback on that. That's just my view. The other reason actually I think with 2019 being 4th I might get a bit of pushback is when I've done videos previously looking back on 2019 when I rewatched the final about a year or so ago, I had a lot of South African fans in the comments then saying 2019 was their favourite World Cup triumph out of all of them up until that point. Maybe partly because it was so unexpected. Maybe it is actually the 18-month turnaround that I'm talking about. Maybe that almost makes it more special because they, in a sense, came from nowhere to end up winning it. But for me, it's number 4. On to number 3, and it's 2007. I love this Springboks team. I look back at some of the names in it, and you look at Brian Habana on the wing, John Schmidt in the back row, Pierre Spies, Victor Matfield, Bakkies Botha, the Beast coming through. It was a brilliant South African side. They had weapons all across the team. And I remember ahead of 2007, around that period, the All Blacks still came in as favourites, but there were a lot of people picking the Springboks because they were an exceptionally good side. And they then backed it up a couple of years later, winning that Lions tour. And in particular, that Lions tour was probably the most physical test series that I've seen in my lifetime anyway. It's definitely been the best Lions series that I've watched. Brilliant series, brilliant team. They end up winning it all. Great players in the whole squad. I think that 2007 team was very, very, very special. Maybe gets forgotten about a little bit when we talk about some great teams, but for me, it's always right up there. So 2007 is 3rd. Coming in 2nd place, we've got 2 more to go. 2nd place is 2023. 2nd place is the team that won the World Cup just a week ago. For a few different reasons. Number 1, I suppose it's because they are going back-to-back, winning back-to-back world titles, incredibly tough. And then also more because it's the hardest run to a World Cup title I think we've ever seen. I've spoken about it already on the channel. Ireland and Scotland in the group, having to knock out the hosts, France, who were many people's favourites for the competition, coming through an arm wrestle against England where they didn't play that well. They perhaps tactically got some things wrong, but they still found a way to win, and then beating New Zealand in the final. Not to mention quarter-final, semi-final, final were all a 1-point win. There are so many things to love about this team, and also another part of that is the coaching box. And the 6-2 bench split, the 7-1 bench split, the way in which I think tactically they have approached the game in a different way and other teams have had to keep up. In particular, the amount of teams that now go for a 6-2. You look at hooking Marnie Libok 30 minutes into the semi-final because it wasn't working, looking to correct it, bringing Andre Pollard on. There's been so much to enjoy, I think, about the 2023 vintage of the Springboks. This world title for me is the toughest we've seen, certainly from a run to the final, and also the fact that the international landscape in terms of rugby, a lot of people regard it as a lot tougher as it was in years gone by. So for me, 2023 gets second, but it doesn't get the number one spot because 1995. You all knew it was coming. This isn't really to do with the team. It's not to do with the run to the final or any of the other stuff that I've spoken about when it comes to the other team. The reason 1995 is number one is because of the significance of it. And not just the significance to South Africa, not just the significance to rugby, even though both of those things are incredibly important, the significance in terms of just a sporting image, globally. It went beyond even sport, you could argue. The iconic moment of Nelson Mandela handing over that trophy, the way in which he wanted the Springboks to do it for the country. And there are so many of you watching this who will have a far better understanding than I, obviously, if you're from South Africa and if you're Springbok fans. But I just think that moment alone means that this is number one on my list of iconic moments. And they won it with the late drop goal, with the plane flying over Ellis Park. There was a World Cup involving Jonah Lomu, and rugby has never had a bigger star than him. But winning it on home soil, I think the significance of that moment for the Springboks, for where they now are, I think is incredibly monumental. And as I say, Mandela handing over the trophy is it's the most iconic image in rugby, and it's one of the most iconic sporting images that I think we've ever seen. So that's the reason for me that it gets number one. What's your criteria? You can do it completely based on your own instinct. Those are mine. So 95 number one, 2023 number two, 2007 third, and 2019 fourth. But frankly, it's horses for courses. They're all brilliant options, and there's no disrespect intended on any of them. It's just simply kind of my gut instinct, my feeling towards those various teams. Maybe 2019's last because they beat England. But 2007 they beat England in the final as well. So yeah, maybe those two are bottom subconsciously, maybe because it's the pride of England being defeated. I don't think so, but anyway, maybe that's it. So let me know, what do you reckon? Your list. Grading South Africa's 4 World Cup triumphs. Bit of fun. Let me know how you would rank them down below. Make sure you like the video as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.